So we are going to discuss cerebrum today. Okay. So how many cerebral hemispheres are there in the brain? The neuroanatomy, we have two cerebral hemispheres. When you see the cut section of cerebral hemisphere, you can see the organization of gray matter is outside and white matter is inside. And when we cut the cerebrum, what type of section is this? What you're seeing on the screen? This is
frontal section.
What section is this? This is coronal section, what we are seeing, isn't it?
Front, okay. Cool.
Sagittal section goes like this. Okay. Now see here, you are finding there are empty cavities here. These empty cavities are nothing but ventricles. Okay, and here we are finding these are lateral ventricles. Okay. Now, so cerebrum is the largest part of forebrain. It's highly developed in human beings. So we have seen embryology also so nicely. So this is derived from telencephalon. Two cerebral hemispheres, they are connected, no, by means of what is the structure which connects right and left cerebral hemisphere? Corpus callosum, isn't it? So the two cerebral hemispheres are incompletely separated by these fissures, like these are median or the greater longitudinal fissure. And the connecting point, this area is corpus callosum. Okay, of course, this is connected by corpus callosum. Each hemisphere has an empty cavity which is filled with CSF, that is cerebrospinal fluid, that is lateral ventricle. Now, what are the various surfaces you see in cerebrum? From the knowledge what you have studied, see if you see the cerebrum from the side view, you call it as superolateral surface. Okay, once you cut the cerebral hemisphere in the midline, and when you just tilt the brain in this direction and see, the other surface is medial surface. If you see the surface from down, you call it as inferior surface. So overall, how many surfaces we have? Three. One is superolateral surface, the other is medial surface, and the other is inferior surface. Okay. Now see here, the cerebrum, see this surface is seen from below. So that's the reason we call it as inferior surface. Okay, the inferior surface is further subdivided into orbital part and tentorial part by means of this sulcus, which is actually the lateral sulcus. And this point is the stem of lateral sulcus. Okay. So each hemisphere, what are the three surfaces I told you just now? Superolateral surface, medial surface, and inferior surface. Okay. So it has three poles. What are the three poles we have? Frontal pole, occipital pole, and we have the temporal poles. Then four borders we have. What are the various four borders we have? Okay, as we proceed, I will show and tell you. Four lobes. Four lobes are very simple. No? What are the four lobes we have? Frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, and occipital lobe. Isn't it? So now coming to the three surfaces names. So the surface which is viewed from the side, we call it as superolateral surface, which is convex and related to cranial vault. Medial surface is flat and vertical. Each surface we will see the sulci and gyri also. Flat and vertical, and it is related to falx cerebri and medial longitudinal fissure. Inferior, it is divided into two parts, that is the orbital part and tentorial part, and both are separated by the stem of lateral sulcus, this one. Okay, now coming to the borders. So what are the various borders now? Which view is this? Inferior surface. Now when we see on the, that means here is one cerebral hemisphere. Okay, and here we have one more cerebral hemisphere. Only one hemisphere is shown here. Hope you understand this. Okay, suppose this is left cerebral hemisphere, right cerebral hemisphere is not shown. So this is medial orbital border. Okay, this is the superciliary border. This is inferolateral border. This is medial occipital border. Now, overall, which view of the brain is this? The superolateral surface. Superolateral, when we view from the side, that is the superolateral surface. So the superolateral surface has this border, which is very clearly visible. You can call it as superomedial border, and this whole border We can divide it as medial orbital and medial occipital, that is different story, but overall the whole border is named as medial border. Okay, and this whole border is called as the inferior or the inferolateral border. So overall, three main borders. What are those? One is this superomedial border.
Superomedial.
This is completely the medial border, which is further subdivided into medial orbital border and medial occipital. This is the inferolateral border. Okay. Now, medial border is this one. What are the two subdivisions we have?
Middle orbital, middle occipital.
Yeah. So then we have inferolateral, this one. Okay, so this is found between the superolateral surface and inferior surface. Superomedial border is this one, right? It is present between the superolateral surface and the medial surface. Then now the inferior, its anterior part may be called as this one, superciliary border. Okay, this one, the anterior part of this border, inferolateral border. Then medial orbital border is this one. Okay, if you consider this as one more border, then it becomes medial occipital. But in most of the books, we are given only three borders. What are those? Superomedial border, then medial border, and inferior border. These are the three terms which are used. Okay, then now let us see what are the poles we have. So this is the frontal lobe, isn't it? So the most pointed area of the frontal lobe is the frontal pole. Okay, the most pointed area of the occipital lobe is occipital pole, and the most pointed area of temporal lobe is the temporal pole. Okay, so these are the three poles. At each hemisphere, we know pretty well, like we have four lobes. What are those? Frontal lobe, temporal lobe, parietal lobe, and occipital lobe. Okay, then now let us see what are the various sulci and gyrae. So before I go to sulci gyrae, let us see what are the lines which are dividing these superolateral surface of cerebrum into four lobes. So generally, this is, I told you, this is the superomedial border, isn't it? Suppose this is frontal pole and this is occipital pole. You just go 2.5 centimeters behind the midline, you are finding there is one sulcus which is running downwards, forwards. Okay. So this sulcus in the center is central sulcus. Okay. Then now between the frontal and temporal lobes, we are finding there is one sulcus which is dividing. This is lateral sulcus. Between the parietal and occipital lobe, there is parieto-occipital sulcus. Now, if you observe central sulcus or lateral sulcus or the parieto-occipital sulcus, they are not complete. Some dotted lines are drawn in order to make them complete and then to divide the superolateral surface of the cerebrum into four lobes. So that means you should draw an imaginary line which is extending from the central sulcus cutting to the which sulcus? Lateral. It's coming and joining the lateral sulcus. Okay. Parieto, this is parietal lobe, this is occipital lobe. For that reason, it is called as parieto-occipital sulcus. From superolateral surface, parieto-occipital sulcus is shallow, very small. Okay. Now, between the parietal lobe and occipital lobe, the name of the sulcus is parieto-occipital sulcus, but this is also too shallow. You are finding like you need to join one line which is extending from parieto-occipital sulcus to lateral sulcus, above which we have parietal lobe. Now see here, right around 5 centimeters in front of the occipital pole, there is a small notch which is called as pre-occipital notch. Okay, and if you join a line from the parieto-occipital sulcus to pre-occipital notch, whatever area is behind is occipital lobe. Okay, so that means we have though prominent sulci, but still we need to draw a few imaginary lines to make the divisions of the lobes complete. Okay, I hope this is clear. Okay. Now let us see what are the sulci and gyrae we see on superolateral surface. So for which we need to understand this picture. It's quite easy. Now see here, I'll just check if any other, I kept one big picture also and take the help of, yeah, this is good. Okay. See, this is central sulcus, isn't it? So in front of the central sulcus, we have precentral sulcus. But that picture, this is, you see here, better. This becomes very easy. See, what this red line is indicating central sulcus. This second red line is indicating lateral
Lateral
sulcus.
sulcus.
Now let us see the sulci and gyrae which are found in each lobe. Okay. Now let us go first with the frontal lobe. Now in the frontal lobe, we have in front of the central sulcus, precentral sulcus. We also have two more. Sulci are the depressions, and the area between the depressions are nothing but the elevations are gyrae.
Frontal gyrus.
So we have like two sulci here in the frontal lobe. Other than the precentral sulcus, we have superior frontal sulcus and inferior frontal sulcus. Okay. Now, so we know this is the lateral sulcus. So it has two invaginations into the inferior frontal gyrus. There is one ascending ramus and the horizontal ramus. We will see this. Now, is that clear? What are the sulci gyrae available in the frontal lobe? I am just repeating. Central sulcus, precentral sulcus, superior frontal sulcus, middle frontal sulcus. Then we have the rami coming from the lateral sulcus, ascending, and the horizontal ramus. Okay. Then now let us see what are the gyrae. Between the central sulcus and precentral sulcus, the area is called as central gyrus. These are quite simple. If you just number them as 1, 2, 3. Superior frontal gyrus, middle frontal gyrus, inferior frontal gyrus. Okay. Superior, middle, and inferior frontal gyrus. Now we know this is the lateral sulcus. We have this is the ascending ramus and this is the horizontal ramus. Now this will divide the inferior frontal gyrus into three areas. What are those? Pars opercularis, pars triangularis, and pars orbitalis. Okay, pars opercularis, triangularis, and orbitalis. See, in fact, I suggest you to go through Chaurassia's neuroanatomy textbook to study this sulci and gyrae, because beautiful pictures and table is given. The table will summarize names of sulci are given, names of gyrae are given, functional areas are given, lesions are given. Okay. That is very, very easy beta. Vishram Singh, separate Vishram Singh becomes too much, and the Vishram Singh which is there along with textbook is too less. So the balancing thing, what I suggest is Chaurasia is better for neuroanatomy. Okay, but if you have already been studying from some other book, no, don't change the book. You just revise from the same book which you have been studying. No problem. Okay. Now coming to this, parietal lobe. So this is central sulcus. This is post-central sulcus. There is one lobule here, like sulcus, which is called as intraparietal sulcus. The area behind is the post-central gyrus. Here you call it as the superior parietal lobule and inferior parietal lobule. Now coming to the temporal lobe. Again, same like here, the names like superior frontal and inferior frontal sulcus names we got. No. Similarly, we have superior temporal sulcus, inferior temporal sulcus. The areas are superior temporal gyrus, middle temporal gyrus, inferior temporal gyrus. Okay, then. So this is the parieto-occipital sulcus, just now what we have discussed in the previous slide, which is dividing the parietal lobe from occipital lobe. We do not have much sulci from the superolateral surface, but occipital lobe will show the sulci and gyrae clearly from the medial surface. From here, we are able to see only one sulcus, that is the lunate or half moon shaped sulcus. Okay, there is one more sulcus which is shown here, that is the calcarine sulcus, that to posterior end. Okay, we do not have much here. So these are the sulci and gyrae what we see on the superolateral surface. Hope this is clear, better. Just practice.
Yes, ma'am.
You will easily understand. So whatever I discussed is it's written here. Lateral sulcus is this one, red one. Central sulcus is this one. If you measure like in the form of inches, half inch behind the midpoint, we have this red line. That is the another red line, central sulcus. Okay. Precentral, I told you everything, whichever is coming here. So in the exam, generally you will be given brain and you should be able to generally, and these are all arbitrary, Salsa and Gare. It's not like exactly this is only central sulcus. Here and there also, if you say it's okay, but at least you should be like having some parameters to just check. If it is like ½ inch behind the midline, then what if you find it little deep, then identify it as central sulcus, like that. Okay, all Salsa Gaire may not be as good as we see theoretically. Okay. Okay, but then this I have discussed theoretically. Now see here. Uh, Anything which we have missed? Let me check. Okay, any of functional areas again we will do. See, the precentral gyrus is actually the primary motor cortex, which is area number 4. This is the primary motor area. The postcentral gyrus is somatosensory area, that is the area number 1, 2, 3. Okay, and anyhow, we will separately study all these functional areas as we proceed. Okay, in the temporal lobe, lower down, we have Broca's area, that is for speech, and it is numbered 44 and 45. Okay, now, just now we have studied like superior frontal sulcus, inferior frontal sulcus, and the 3 gyri. Okay, now if you just start numbering them, after 4 we have the area number 6, which is premotor cortex. Okay, as we come front, we have frontal eye field, that is the area number 8. Broca's area, which is for speech, that is 44 and 45. This is motor speech area. Okay, vernix is the sensory speech area. No, this is completely frontal lobe. In parietal lobe, what are we finding? Postcentral gyrus. What are the area numbers we have? Area number 1, 2, 3, isn't it? Important areas are given here. Primary auditory area. What is the number? Primary auditory area we are finding in the superior temporal gyrus. Okay, in this area, that is area number 41 and 42. This bluish one is actually primary visual cortex area number 17. You can see here. Okay. Now after studying that, we have sulci on medial surface. Now we know this structure which is seen here is corpus callosum. This is completely medial surface, and corpus callosum is an area which is binding the right and left cerebral hemispheres, isn't it? And the sulcus which is seen immediately above the corpus callosum is callosal sulcus. Then now 1 inch above and parallel, you are finding there is one more sulcus here, beta. Okay, again these are all arbitrary. More or less you can use that word as imaginary. Okay, 1 inch above and parallel to this callosal sulcus, we have cingulate sulcus. Okay, whatever has been shown like this in black line. I told you parieto-occipital sulcus is well defined in medial surface, isn't it? So, how to identify which is anterior end and which is posterior end? See here, you always should look at this corpus callosum to prevent confusion. Okay. So here you are finding this is rostrum, genu, body, and splenium. Rostrum end is always anterior. That means this is frontal lobe, this is parietal lobe, this is occipital lobe, and this is temporal lobe. Okay. Now we are talking about parieto-occipital sulcus. That means this blue line, whatever we are seeing here, is the parieto-occipital sulcus. I told you it was incomplete on superolateral surface, but on medial surface it's quite complete. Begins in the upper border, 4 centimeters in front of the occipital pole. It ends at the meeting of this sulcus, which is quite deep and complete here, is actually called as calcarine sulcus. So it is coming and meeting the calcarine and also the post-calcarine sulci. Okay, these 2 lines. Then, so overall, see, calcarine sulcus is labeled here. So it begins below the splenium. This, I told you, this particular part of the corpus callosum is called as splenium. So it is coming something below the splenium. Okay, then passes backwards, upwards to meet, what sulcus is this? Parieto-occipital sulcus. Then in front you are calling it as calcarine. Behind the parieto-occipital sulcus meeting point, you call it as post-calcarine sulcus. Okay, calcarine and post-calcarine sulcus. So post-calcarine sulcus is an extension of calcarine. In fact, in many books, it has not been differentiated as post-calcarine. You can use the word continuously calcarine sulcus. Okay. Then, what are the sulci and gyrae we see on the medial surface? First of all, I told you this is above corpus callosum is callosal sulcus. Okay, as you move little above, we have cingulate sulcus. Between the callosal sulcus and cingulate sulcus, whatever gyrus we are finding is the cingulate gyrus. Okay, then if you remember, I hope you know, like this is frontal lobe, parietal, temporal, right? Now, we know like this is central sulcus, precentral and postcentral sulcus. So whatever area which is surrounding this, the central sulcus on medial surface, this is the medial view. On medial surface, the area which is surrounding the central sulcus is called as paracentral lobule. Okay. So this is, it's written now, see the text comes. Continuation of the precentral and the postcentral gyrae. What you see in the superolateral surface, the same is dipping on the medial side. And now on the medial surface, it's given a different name. You call it as paracentral lobule. Okay. Next, we have precuneus. What is this precuneus? Behind the paracentral lobule, whatever area is there, that is precuneus. As you move more posteriorly, we are towards which lobe? Occipital lobe.
Occipital lobe.
Between the parieto-occipital and posterior calcarine sulcus, whatever area is there, that is cuneus. Okay. Now, after that, we will talk about, and of course, many other names are given, but like isthmus and all. We will see. Anyhow, I will project like Chaurasia's pictures also at the end. Now, see here, this is which surface of the brain? Cerebrum?
Inferior.
Inferior surface. This is the lateral sulcus only, but the starting point of the lateral sulcus is called as stem. We are seeing only one lobe here. If you can consider this as right cerebral hemisphere, left is not visible. Only one cerebral hemisphere is seen. Okay. Now you are seeing the lateral sulcus is dividing the inferior aspect of the cerebral hemisphere into two areas. What is that? Orbital part and tentorial part. The previous picture I have shown you. In front of lateral sulcus is the orbital part. Behind the lateral sulcus is tentorial part. You remember tentorium cerebelli?
Yes.
Tent. Above tent, I said occipital lobes of the cerebrum are resting. Below the tent, what is present? Cerebellum, isn't it? These are found in the posterior cranial fossa. Okay. So now we are seeing on the inferior aspect of the cerebrum, orbital part and tentorial part. In the orbital part, we have certain sulci and gyrae. There is, if you remember, on the inferior aspect, we have olfactory bulb and olfactory tract. If you lift and if you remove it, underneath that you will find one sulcus. That is nothing but the olfactory sulcus. Other than that, we have head-shaped orbital sulcus. Okay. Now, olfactory sulcus, whatever gyrus associated here is called as gyrus rectus. Rectus means straight. I told you so many times. This area is called as gyrus rectus. Then this head-shaped orbital sulcus, we have four gyrae. Anterior orbital gyrus, medial orbital gyrus, posterior orbital gyrus, lateral orbital gyrus. Very simple. In front of which is anterior, behind is posterior, near midline is medial, away from midline is lateral. So these are the sulci and gyrae which we see in the orbital part of the inferior surface of the cerebrum. When you come to the tentorial part, In the tentorial part, again we have certain sulci gyri. What are those? You are finding one sulcus which is running like this, which is close to medial surface. In fact, you call it as parahippocampal sulcus. Okay, there is one more sulcus here, which is rhinal sulcus. Okay, in like with small spacing gap, again you have a continuous line, that is the collateral sulcus. We have occipitotemporal sulcus here. Okay, very simple words I'll tell you. Medial to occipitotemporal sulcus, we have medial occipitotemporal gyrus, lateral occipitotemporal gyrus. Okay, now whatever we have discussed is written here. Olfactory sulcus is close and parallel to the medial orbital margin. Orbital sulcus is head shaped, isn't it? Then stem of the lateral sulcus is this, divides the inferior surface into orbital part and tentorial parts. Okay, this is the rhinal sulcus, a short sulcus on the temporal pole. Then we also have collateral sulcus behind the rhinal sulcus and extends up to the occipital pole. You can write in your own words, beta. If you practice this diagram, you can make your own words. Occipitotemporal sulcus, lateral to the collateral sulcus. It extends from the temporal to the occipital poles. Okay. Then let us name the gyre. Of course, this picture is not so good. I have helped you with that only. Medial to olfactory sulcus, I told you gyrus rectus. Rectus means straight in this. Okay. H-shaped orbital gyrus, no? H-shaped orbital sulcus, anterior, posterior, medial, lateral orbital gyre. There, I already told you, lateral to occipitotemporal sulcus, lateral occipitotemporal gyrus, medial occipitotemporal gyrus. Okay. Then we have parahippocampal gyrus, medial to collateral sulcus. Okay. Lingual gyrus between collateral and calcarine sulci. Uncus, anterior end of the parahippocampal gyrus. You should know this word, uncus. Okay. So all gyri are labeled here, but this area is uncus. Gyrus rectus, medial, lateral, anterior and posterior orbital gyrus, medial and lateral occipitotemporal gyrus, parahippocampal gyrus and uncus. Anterior end of the parahippocampal gyrus. Okay. Then now we have important centers for the cerebral cortex, that is the main functional areas of cerebral cortex. So we know cerebral cortex is important for conscious awareness, okay, for thinking process, thought, memory, intellect. So everything is actually, we have sensory areas, motor areas, and it is connected to thalamus via various tracts, ascending and descending tracts. Okay. So posterior part of the cerebrum is receiving sensory information because we have sensory area here. What is that? The postcentral gyrus, no? So parietal lobe is somatosensory. Occipital lobe is for vision. We have area number 17, I said. Then temporal lobe is for hearing. We have primary auditory cortex here, 41, 42. Okay? So like that. Whatever part is shown in blue color here, this is actually part of limbic system, which you will generally study in physiology, which is concerned with emotions, memory, so many things, sense of smell. So this is motor area. What is the area number? Primary motor area is area number 4. Okay. We have premotor area also, no? Premotor cortex. What is the number which is given here? Area number 6. Okay. Then we have supplementary motor areas, prefrontal area. What is the number? Prefrontal area we have?
Area 8.
Frontal eye field is 8, isn't it? So that this whole of the frontal lobe is important for the guidance of complex motor behavior. Primary motor cortex. This is area number 4. All these areas were given by the scientist Brodmann, hence the names are given as Brodmann's numbers. Okay, area number 4. Body's representation is upside down. I'll show you. So size of this functional area is directly proportional to skilled movements. Okay, that means how much amount of muscle we are using. Based on that, the area of this surface area will be more. Okay. So many things are, see, I told you the body's representation is upside down. What does it mean? Head is represented down and feet is represented up. Okay. So that is, this is called as homunculus. Sensory homunculus and motor homunculus. Both the homunculi will show the body's representation will be upside down. Okay. For functional areas, generally, this is premotor cortex. We have a very good table in Chaurasia. If you have that, you share in the group. If anyhow, I have shared one link also, no, where you can download the textbooks and you can study. If you don't even have textbook with you, better download Neuroanatomy BDC and try to check for the tables from the chapter what I am taking today. It's very useful. In a nutshell, everything has been given. It becomes easy for you to remember, recollect, and reproduce in your exams. Okay, area number 6 includes posterior part of superior, middle, and inferior frontal gyri. Okay, the function is programming and preparing for movement and control of posture. It receives its afferent impulses from thalamus. So, which nucleus? Ventral anterior nucleus of thalamus. So, supplementary motor cortex area is there. Okay, like that many areas are there. Frontal eye field, area number 8.